Today I'm going to be showing you how to work the cluster stitch. This is a beautiful 2-row, very easy repeat. It works beautifully if you change colour on every row like I have for this piece here, or equally it looks just as beautiful in one solid colour. It's perfect for baby blankets, is nice and dense, and the edges stay nice and straight. To begin, pop a slip knot onto your hook. Now the pattern multiple for the cluster stitch is very simple, it's just 2. So you're going to chain in multiples of 2, 2, 2 for as wide as you want your project to be. For this small sample I'm going to make in this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and chain 16. So you can go ahead and just chain any even number that you wish. Once you have your desired amount of chains, we're going to be working into the second chain from the hook. Now this loop on your hook does not count as anything. You only want to count these fully formed chains hanging down below. So 1, 2. And into this second chain, I'm going to work a single crochet stitch. Then chain 1, skip a chain, single crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip a chain, single crochet into the next. I'm going to repeat this all the way down. Chain 1, skip a chain, single crochet into the next. Just keep working this all the way down your length of chains. I'm going to change colour on my very last stitch. Now this is optional. If you were doing this in a solid colour, you would not need to do that final step. So keep going, chain 1, skip a chain, single crochet in the next until you reach the very last stitch. So I've reached the end and I am due to put a single crochet into this very last stitch. Now as I mentioned, I will be changing colour. So to do that, I'm going to insert my hook and drop a loop. So I have half a single crochet here on my hook. I'm going to drop the yarn I'm currently working with and bring in my new yarn. I'm going to lie this over my hook and then draw that through these 2 loops to change colour. Then I can snip off my yellow, leaving a long tail for weaving in afterwards. And we're ready to begin row 2. Now row 2 is the start of the 2-row pattern repeat. All that means is that we're going to repeat the next 2 rows, rows 2 and 3, over and over until your project is the length that you want it to be. So row 2 is a cluster stitch row. So we're going to start by chaining 3. Then turn your work. Now we're going to work our clusters into these chain 1 spaces from the row below. So in between your single crochets that you made, this is where we're going to work our cluster stitches. So working directly into this chain 1 space, right in here, we're going to begin our very first cluster stitch. Now our cluster stitches are double crochet 3 together. Now all that means is we're going to begin and not finish 3 double crochets, and then we are going to bring them together to form the cluster stitch. So to do that, we're going to yarn over, go into this chain 1 space, draw up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 and then stop. So you've got a half finished double crochet on your hook. Now ignoring these 2 loops you still have on your hook, we're going to start again. So yarn over, go back into that chain 1 space, draw up a loop. You'll have 4 loops on your hook. And just like before, yarn over and pull through 2. then stop. So now you have 2 half finished double crochets hanging from your hook. Then one more time, ignore these loops that are currently on your hook, yarn over, go back into that chain 1 space, draw up a loop. You will have 5 loops on your hook. Now yarn over and pull through just those 2, the first 2, and then stop. So now we have 1, 2, 3 half finished double crochets hanging from our hook. Now to draw them together, we're going to yarn over and pull through all the loops that are left on the hook. And that forms your double crochet 3 together, or cluster stitch. Now chain 1 and move into the next chain 1 space from the row below. And we're going to repeat that double crochet 3 together, or cluster stitch. So yarn over, go into the chain 1 space, draw up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and then stop. Begin again, yarn over, go into that chain 1 space and draw up a loop, 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2, and then stop. Then one more time, yarn over, go into that chain 1 space and draw up a loop. You'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on your hook, yarn over and draw through the first 2. Then once you have 1, 2, 3 half finished double crochets hanging from your hook and 4 loops on the hook, we're going to yarn over and draw them together by coming through all the loops on your hook to form the cluster stitch. So we're going to repeat this all the way down the row. Chain 1, cluster stitch into the next chain 1 space. So in between your single crochets from the row below, work a cluster stitch of double crochet 3 together. Chain 1, cluster stitch into the next chain 1 space. Keep doing this, chain 1 followed by a cluster stitch until you have run out of chain 1 spaces in between your single crochets from the row below. So I'm just working my final cluster stitch into this very last chain 1 space here at the end of the row. So that is my cluster stitches finished. Now we're not going to chain 1. Instead, we're going to end this second row with a double crochet into the top of the single crochet from the row below. Now this one you may need to rotate it around a little bit to find the V's of that stitch. Immediately after that cluster stitch, work a double crochet into the top of this single crochet from the row below. Now, just as before, I'm going to change colour back to the yellow. So before I finish my stitch, I'm going to drop the yarn I'm currently working with and bring that yellow back in and finish my double crochet with the new colour. Trim off. As I say, changing colours every row, totally optional. You will have a lot of ends to weave in, so unless you've got a really special project in mind that you don't mind changing colours every other row for, then you can go ahead and use a solid colour or just work the whole thing in a variegated shade. So for row 3, which is the second of the 2 row repeats, so we've just done row 2 and now we're going to do row 3. To begin row 3, chain 1, turn your work and work a single crochet into the top of this double crochet that you just ended on. So right into where you have just chained from, pop a single crochet. Now chain 1, skip your cluster stitch and single crochet into that chain 1 space in between them. Single crochet in between your cluster stitches. Chain 1, single crochet in between your cluster stitches. Repeat this all the way down. Chain 1, skip this cluster and work your single crochet into the chain 1 space in between the clusters from the row below. Chain 1, skip that cluster, single crochet in between them. Keep going. And when you reach the very end of this row, you'll have your cluster stitch and then your chain 3 turning chain here. Now work your final single crochet into the top of this turning chain. If it's easier to put it in between this last stitch and the cluster stitch, you can, but just to keep your edges nice and straight, you want to pop into the top of this turning chain. So 1, 2, 3, those are my 3 chains. Work your single crochet in there. This would be the point at which you would change color back to this variegated shade if you wanted to, or if you were working as a solid color, you would simply finish your stitch. Now to continue the pattern, we simply repeat rows 2 and 3. I'll do a really quick recap for you now. So row 2, we start with a chain 3 and then turn. Then work a cluster stitch into this chain 1 space in between your single crochets from the row below. And your cluster stitch is double crochet 3 together. Three half double crochet stitches made, then yarn over and draw through to pull them together. Then chain 1, work your cluster stitch into the next chain 1 space in between those single crochets. Repeat this all the way down. Chain 1, cluster stitch into the chain 1 space in between the single crochets from the row below. When you come to finishing this very last cluster stitch of the row, do not chain 1. Instead, work a double crochet into the top of the single crochet from the row below. So right in here, you may have to rotate the work a little bit. Oh, there we go. And then for row 3, we're going to chain 1 and turn, work a single crochet into that exact same space where you just chained from, and then chain 1, single crochet into the chain 1 space in between your cluster stitches from the row below, chain 1, single crochet in between the cluster stitches from the row below, work that to the other side, and then when you have run out of cluster stitches to single crochet in between, we end with a chain 1, and that very last single crochet goes into the top of your turning chain from row 2. So you repeat rows 2 and 3, 2 and 3, all the way until your project is the length that you want it to be. Once you have completed your very last stitch of your very last row, To finish off, cut your yarn, leaving a nice long tail that you can then weave in afterwards. Chain 1 and pull that yarn all the way through that chain. Then pull it tight. You can go ahead and weave in all your ends. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please do give it a big thumbs up if you found it helpful, and until next time, happy crocheting! Bye!